Good afternoon and welcome to Racing WA TV. Today on Sunday at the Kalgoorlie Boulder Racing Club ahead of a 7-race program. My name is Tessa Daly and joining me is Riley Morgan. Riley, good afternoon to you. It's a lot colder, it's a bit more miserable this week than what it was last week. Last week we were very fortunate with about 25 degrees. Today 15 degrees, feels like 6 currently, so we are freezing right now. The wind has just started to pick up a little bit more as well for that extra chill factor. But it should be a great day of racing. We've got plenty of racing here at the KBRC and another day today. A bit smaller fields, but understandable with how much racing we've got going on.
Yeah, that wind can make things a little bit more tricky this afternoon, Tess. As I say, good afternoon not only to you but to everyone else listening and tuned in on Racing WA TV as well. Really looking forward to today's action. Not the conditions we had 7 days ago, but that's all right. We're going to have to make do. And 7 races on the program, as you mentioned, some smaller fields this afternoon. There has been plenty of racing up here at Kalgoorlie, so unsurprisingly they are giving some of these other horses a bit more of a break and freshening them up for these meetings that are a bit further down the track, but still think we can try and find a winner or two on today's program.
Hopefully so, for sure. We've got, as mentioned, 7 races. The first 3 races are only pay 1-2 events as well, with 6 runners going around in those. The rail is out at the 8-metre mark. The track is a good 4, so a little bit different to what we've been seeing racing throughout the state and the metropolitan sort of region. It's been heavy 10s, heavy 9s and lots of rain. We've only had 1 mil in the last 24 hours, and I believe that hit this morning, and probably a nice thing for the track, really. They've had 2 mils in the last 7 days, and the track does look fantastic.
Yeah, clearly they haven't had as much rain as we've had in the metropolitan area, Tess. It has not stopped raining in Perth over the last 24 hours, but as you mentioned, the track looks to be in terrific order here today. I'm intrigued to see how the track does play, particularly through these earlier races. The rail goes out to the 8-metre position, as you mentioned, which is a lot further out than it has been in recent meetings. So that is going to be fascinating to see how the track plays, and we can get hopefully a nice gauge on that over the first earlier races on the program.
And that wind just continues to pick up. We see our little pretend horse here starting to move around in the background. My hair will start flying away very shortly as well, even though it's pinned down very tightly. But 7 races. Race number 1 is the Thompson Memorial Maiden. We do have a lot of memorial and remembrance races on today's program. There's 3 trophy races as well. Tom Percy has put on today's event, which is fantastic. He's a Kalgoorlie boy and obviously one of our best top criminal lawyers in the state. He's, as mentioned, Kalgoorlie boy. We remember his wife as well. It's the 13th running of her anniversary race today. We see his colours go around in every single race on today's program. So I'm sure there's plenty of supporters up in what looks to be up under covers, not outside in this freezing cold weather. I know the heaters are on inside, but if you are around the Kalgoorlie region, do come down. The heaters are on everywhere. We're in the blue speck area earlier. Heaters are on in there. It's nice and warm.
And the footy's on as well, Tess, importantly.
It is. It does look like the Eagles are on in there, though, Gold Coast, but they're ahead. So it's unfortunate for us. We don't get to see that too often. But better bets on today's program for yourself, Riley.
A couple of best bets for me, Tess. I do like Inner Joy in race number 2, formerly trained by Simon Miller, this galloper. She's still a filly, still relatively lightly raced. She's now based here in Kalgoorlie for Ricky Brown. She's shown plenty in her last couple of starts. There's been plenty of merit to both of those runs. I think she finds a weak enough field today, and she has been well supported. She was an early drifter when markets did open. She was $2.30 out to $3.50, but she's now back into favouritism at around that $2.50. I thought she looked hard to beat today. Race 4, Dreamers Never Die, back here at Kalgoorlie today for Peter Fernie. I've always had a bit of time for this horse. He just hasn't been able to put it all together thus far in his career, but I loved his recent trial. It was the work of a horse that was going to be very hard to beat wherever he landed first up, and he finds a very winnable race here today as well. So pretty keen on Dreamers Never Die in race 4, who has also been well supported, $3.50 into $2.65. So some good backing there. Best value of the day for me, the Old Boy Kakadu for Gary Bowen. He's going super at the moment. I think he can turn the tables on Queen Sacrifice from last start. Draws a better barrier here this afternoon as well. And while he's wound back the clock this preparation, he hasn't been a horse that's won out of turn in recent preparations, but I think he gets a really good opportunity today at an each-way price.
Also, just touching on some different value, I guess, bets of the program. A few weeks ago we were here and Troy Turner took out the Jockeys Challenge at $81. If we were looking at a jockey's challenge perspective today, who would you be backing in?
Well, I'd anticipate Lucy Fiore would likely be the favourite. We know she comes here and dominates week after week with her, I guess, her affinity and affiliation with Peter Fernie and his camp. But I think Tash Faithful can have a big day here today, Tess. I'm hoping she can ride at least 3 winners on the program. So I haven't had a look at the jockey market or the jockey challenge market myself, but there might be a little bit of value there with Tash if Lucy is the current favourite.
It was great chatting to Tash earlier as well, hearing all about the jockeys' performance routines ahead of a big race day like today, especially in the cold weather. We hear Lucy Fiore loves to do some push-ups, so hopefully she's done a few extra out there just to warm the muscles up. But runners are about to enter the yard here ahead of race number 1, the Olive Thompson Memorial Maiden. Olive Thompson was a big member of the Kalgoorlie Bowling Racing Club here, great supporter, had major involvement in a Group 1 winner in Singing the Blues back in 1996, the Group 1 at the Oakley Plate over in Caulfield as well. So we remember her today, which is a fantastic opportunity to think, hopefully back a winner and have a drink and pay respects to Olive. The first runner we'll preview is Witchy Woods, Paul Tapper, Brandon Louis.
Only a small field, as we mentioned, Tess, but he does look tested for mine. Witchy Woods here this afternoon. He's just a relatively one-paced galloper at the moment who has had a few chances now. He comes up for start number 11 here today, and he's only placed on 1 occasion. He was well beaten last start. He contested a maiden. He was dropping back from a mile to the 1100 metres. He was well beaten on that occasion by Purple Circle. That was here last weekend. He can roll forward from the barrier. He's got the early speed to be able to hold up in the first 2 or 3 in running, but I do think he might find a couple of these a little bit sharp over the 1200 metres, and that perhaps a couple of these other runners in this field have a little bit more upside than he does.
The 2 is Jekyll Island. New trainer David Smith takes over here, and Tash Faithful aboard.
I like this horse in this race here today, Tess. He's run some good races early in his career, Jekyll Island. He's a very lightly raced 5-year-old. He's only had the 7 starts, and he was only beaten 2.5 lengths down there at Bunbury last start in a maiden over the 1200 metres. That was behind Savage Dancer. He endured a pretty wide run throughout, so there were certainly some excuses for him there on that occasion. You go back further into the preparation. He's run 3rd behind Fire the Lot, who looks a really nice horse for Michael Lane. The second horse in that race, Our Paladin Al for Rusty Stewart, looks well and truly above average as well. So that's pretty good form for a Kalgoorlie maiden, which isn't the strongest of Kalgoorlie maidens either. Steps out for the first time today for David Smith. Tash Faithful jumps on board. He's a horse that has tactical speed. It wouldn't surprise me to see Tash try and roll forward to find the front with him here today. And I think if he can replicate some of his form that he's shown in the metropolitan area earlier this campaign, that he looks hard to beat. And the market has allowed you to get on at a nice enough price as well here, Tess. He's been a drifter since markets open.
Is currently at $3.50 on the Tab Touch market. The 3 first up today is Bondi's Son, Mac Hall, Shani Webster.
As you mentioned, Tess, first up this afternoon, Bondi's Son hasn't shown a great deal in his 7 career starts to date. He's yet to run a placing in any of those 7 starts. He hasn't had the trial leading into his first up run. He does get a bit of weight relief here for Shani Webster, who claims the 3 kilos, only carries the 55, but I suggest he may just need this first run back as he builds into his preparation.
The 4 is the current Tab Touch favourite, the Shangiri. Peter Fernie now trains, formerly with Dion Luciani. Lucy Fiore takes the ride.
And he's been pretty well supported from when markets opened here, Tess. $3.50 he opened. He's into $2.65 and probably brings the most upside of this field, this horse. I thought he looked good in a recent trial win. And you can take some strength through that trial form as well. The second horse, You Can Call Me Al, was very luckless on Wednesday. Was climbing over them in behind the speed and was pretty unlucky not to have been in that finish. He was beaten by a nice filly on debut. You go back to that debut run. That was at Bunbury over the 1,000 metres in a 3-year-old maiden. Santanova was the filly that beat him home on that day. Lucy Fiore jumps on board here this afternoon. He has his first run in Kalgoorlie for Peter Fernie. He's drawn soft. He's shown that tactical speed. He led them throughout in that recent trial win over the 1,000 metres at Belmont Park. I think this is a nice kick-off point for him.
The 5 is Alabama Elegance, 3rd start this preparation. Ryan Hill, Vic Corver.
She was a beaten favourite here 2 starts ago. That was in a maiden over the 1,100 metres. There weren't a great deal of excuses for her on that occasion. She was touched off a length last start, went to Northam, contested a 3-year-old maiden over the 1,000 metres. That was behind Scenic George. It was quite a blanket finish on that occasion, but she was quite good there. She's certainly going to find this a lot easier than that race she contested there at Northam last start. Gets the senior jockey back on on board this afternoon, drawn barrier 1, and having her third run back for the preparation, she should be just about ready to peak.
Did open our favourite at $2.20, has drifted now to $3 on the second line of betting. And rounding out the 6-horse field in the opener here at the Kalgoorlie Boulder Racing Club, having first race start is Hurls, Luke Fernie, Braden Garth.
He's a 2-year-old colt on debut, Hurls, incredibly well named horse as well, by my admiration, out of Fat Amy. He's only had the 400-metre jump outs. He has had 4 of them leading into his debut. I believe he went shin sore, and they had planned for him to kick off with the preparation a little bit earlier in his time in racing. The trials have just been fair for mine. He has been beaten margins in those 400-metre jump outs, although they are typically quite hard to gauge. But off the back of those jump outs, I'm happy to just watch him here on debut, although I will say he does bring a fair bit more upside as a 2-year-old colt unraced, and a few of these other maiden gallopers here who have certainly had a few chances.
Taking a look at the market now, the Shangiri remains our favourite. Did open at $3.20, however has been very well supported and is into $2.65. Alabama Elegance opened $2.20 into $2.10, now at $3. Jekyll Island first race start for David Smith, the new trainer here. $3.20 out to $3.50. Witchy Woods $12 into $10, now at $11. Bondi Sun first up for Mac Hall, $9 out to $11, and Hurls making race debut today is at $20. Riley, how are we seeing things play out here in the opener?
Pretty thin fields to kick off the program here today, Tess. 2, 4, 5 and 6 my numbers here in race number 1 on the program. Think the 2 can win this race. Jekyll Island. I've liked some of his runs. He was formerly trained by Summer Dixon. He contested some maidens in Perth and ran some good races. He was beaten 4 lengths behind Bear Cove Rock back in April over 1,400 metres from a very wide barrier. Ran third behind Fire the Lot and Our Paladin Owl, who both look well and truly above average and young horses early in their careers. And then last start at Bunbury over the 1,200 metres, had endured a wide run throughout and wasn't beaten all that far behind Savage Dancer. I think Tash Faithful can roll forward and find a nice enough position in running in this small field, and the way the market currently situates itself, the Sheragini at $2.65, Jekyll Island at $3.50, I think he poses the most value here in race number 1, so that's the way we'll side up. From the 4, the Sheragini, who probably brings the most upside. I like the recent trial win. The second horse in that trial I thought was very unlucky last Wednesday, was climbing over the top of them over the concluding stages. Barrier 2 has that tactical speed, can roll forward to try and find the top here for Lucy Fiore and Peter Fernie, and that's always a very ominous combination. Just short enough in the market for mine at $2.60. From the 5, Alabama Elegance, who was a beaten favourite here 2 starts ago, but maybe had some excuses there, being her first run back for the campaign. She was much better last start in a 3-year-old maiden over the 1,000 metres there. Was only beaten a length by Scenic George, who took some pretty strong form to the races that day from his earlier 2-year-old form as well. She'll certainly find this a lot easier than that race, and she gets the senior jockey back on board here today, third up, and the 6 Hurls in for 4th. The 2-year-old colt on debut, who's only seen the 400-metre jump outs to date. 2, 4, 5 and 6 my numbers here, Tess. It is incredibly cold down here at ground level here at Kalgoorlie this afternoon, and that wind has picked up. A little bit overcast, but still ultimately good conditions for racing. 2, 4, 5 and 6 my numbers here in race number 1. But number 2, Jekyll Island poses the most value for me here in race number 1.
2, 4, 5 and 6 here for Riley in the Olive Thompson Memorial Maiden over the 1,200 metres. Hopefully off to a great start. 7 races to be run and won here at the KBRC. 2 on top for Riley, Jekyll Island, David Smith, Tash Faithful. Hopefully Tash inwards for a very good day at the KBRC. She often rides a winner or 2 here on every program she attends. Is $3.40 and continuing to now slightly shorten as runners are making their way into the barriers very nicely. We'll hand you upstairs and say a very good afternoon to Royce Newton, who'll be calling home all the action on today's program.
So 3 of them locked away as we join our 7+ audience as well. Good afternoon to you. Thanks Tess, thanks Riley downstairs, and runners coming forward well here for the running of race number 1. This is the Olive Thompson Memorial Maiden. So we just await Witchy Woods to come forward together with Jekyll Island, and we'll be set for the first. $2.60 the Sherigini, Alabama Elegance $3, Jekyll Island at $3.40. They're holding the weight of money amongst those three in the market. So Jekyll Island to come forward. First run for Dave Smith this afternoon. 1,200 metres ahead of them. The rail at 8 metres today. Overcast conditions. The track a good for as Jekyll Island comes forward into line. Red lights on, stand by. We're set for the first on Joan Percy Memorial Race Day here at the KBRC. Starter just holds them. Ready to fly, gates fly back, they're off racing now. Jekyll Island just a stride slow out of the machines, going to settle down at the tail with early speed pushing forward the Sherigini, likewise kicking up Alabama Elegance to second. Third, the outside is the debutant in Hurls. They will follow to further 2.5 to Bondi's Sun, the outside to Witchy Woods, and settling down at the tail it's Jekyll Island. So with 850 metres to run, they head to the side of the course, and it's the favourite, the Sherigini for Lucy Fiore, showing the way by 2. Running second, we've got Alabama Elegance, a length and a half to Hurls, who looks done for a long way from home. The outside, Witchy Woods, down on the inside, Bondi's Sun and Jekyll Island is at the tail. So with 500 metres to run, the Sherigini doing it easily out in front, shows out by 2 lengths. Alabama Elegance in touch. They were followed next of all by Bondi's Sun, the outside to Witchy Woods on the improve. Jekyll Island sticking to the paint, and Hurls has been relegated to last. So at the top of the straight, it's the Sherigini. Alabama Elegance trying to lengthen the outside. They were followed by Jekyll Island into third, Bondi's Sun and Witchy Woods down the outside. It's the Sherigini in front. Here's Alabama Elegance starting to lengthen now. It's the Sherigini. Alabama Elegance coming to Sherigini. The inside, Alabama Elegance over the top and gets up in the final stride. Defeats the Sherigini. Third in was Jekyll Island. They were followed in by Bondi's Sun, Witchy Woods, and Hurls was last to greet the judge. Number 5 in the Percy colours, Alabama Elegance for Ryan Hill. And Victoria Corver had to find in that last 100 and did so. 5 is your winner, Alabama Elegance, at start number 8 today, brought to Kalgoorlie to target an easier assignment, fair to say. And it gets up in the last stride, denying the Sherigini, who was there for the most part. Looked to be travelling strong at the top of the straight. Was just met by one better on the line. 2 gets third, that's Jekyll Island for Dave Smith and Tash Faithful. A fair run into third there. And the 3 will get fourth at Bondi's Sun. So the numbers here are 5, 4, 2 and 3. A short neck by 3 1/4. And it's Alabama Elegance for Ryan Hill, Victoria Corver. By Alabama Express from So Foxy, owned by Ryan Hill, A. Murphy, D. Houston, also Miss C. Babich, C. Harding, Miss J. Murray, J. Babich, and also Miss S. Parfait, V. Elliott, and Miss J. Babich as well. Second in the 4, the Sherigini for Pete Fernie, Lucy Fiore by All American from Arctic Aura, owned by C. Dunlop and Miss R. Skinner. Third is the 2, Jekyll Island, Dave Smith, Tash Faithful, by Snippet Sun from Lenordi, owned by G. Kettlewell, Mrs. J. Kettlewell and T. Mackey. And fourth in was the 3. That was Bondi's Sun for Mac Hall and Shani Webster. 5, 4, 2 and 3. Race 2 is next. The Tab Touch, Better Your Bet Maiden. We're going over the 1,400 metres. Your early favourite is number 6, In the Joy at $2.50. In the meantime, we'll head down to the yard after the running of race number 1.
Thanks, Royce. I'm joined with Ryan Hill here, both freezing standing here right now, so it's a great result to get a winner, but Alabama Elegance breaks through today. A great result for you and the team.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, Chris is in the ownership and sort of he's up here all the time, and a few other big names, but it's just obviously to race in Tom Percy's colours as well, so good way to start off their Memorial Day.
Absolutely, and remembering Joan, his wife too, but back to the horse now, over the 1,200 metres. He's been at this trip once before, found the line really well and convincingly. Do you stay here?
Good ride. No, it was, honestly. Victoria's riding fantastic, especially all of Christopher's horses, not so much mine. But no, look, we've had a very frustrating week. I think we've had about 4 seconds. So it's been a good week, but just missing. But the ride today was fantastic. You're so patient. Like, don't get me. We're both standing there saying, "Jesus, get going!" But you know, she knows what she's doing. So yeah, just got there in the line perfectly.
She do a lot of work behind the scenes with this galloper as well, no doubt.
No, Victoria does no work.
Now, you've got 4 runners in today. If you blush in the next, can we make it an early race to race double?
We hope so. That's also another Esperance horse we just bought for a bit of fun with the boys. But that and Newington Boy, they're both sort of going well. But this was our best chance today, obviously, in the market. But yeah, they're here. They're going to run good races, and fingers crossed.
Fantastic, off to a great start. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's Ryan Hill, and here's Vic Corver.
Thanks, Tess. Catching up with Vic Corver. Vic, it looked as though the leader might have kicked away on straightening and that it would have been tough to run her down, but she toughed it out really well late to her credit.
Yeah, she's been somewhat of a frustrating horse. She sort of promises the world and lets down at the winner every time, and she doesn't. So I was quite happy to sort of ride her patient, especially when I had no pressure to my outside to pop off early. So I was confident at the 200, but prior to that, not so much.
She was always going to find today's race a little bit easier than last start. That 3-year-old Maiden, she contested at Northern, but to be beaten only a length on that occasion, I thought she was still pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. The 3 kilos was kind of what she needed, but like I said, if she doesn't get everything perfectly her way, she just doesn't find the line.
Is she a horse? She's still very lightly raced and only early in her career. Can she continue to progress and work through her grades now that she's got the Maiden out of the way?
Yeah, I think so. And typical fillies, I think she might find some confidence from winning, and hopefully she'll knuckle down a bit more in going on.
Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
There's Victoria Corver combining with Ryan Hill and Alabama Elegance taking out the Thompson Memorial Maiden here over the 1200 metres. Great to see Tom Percy's colours as well salute across the line in the first today. As mentioned, we'll see the colours throughout the whole of our program today, so it might be worth following on Joan Percy Memorial Day here. Numbers from the first were 5, 4, 2 and 3. We won't be too far away ahead of race number 2 here at the KBRC.
Ready to fly, gates fly back.